Hey there, if you have an ISA setting appointments for you and you feel they're not making enough dials, enough calls, check out this video. We're gonna go in depth how we diagnose and fix that problem. Let's jump into it. When you're working with an ISA on your team, one of the metrics that we recommend that you review on a daily basis is how many phone calls they're making every single day. It's an important indicator for productivity and making sure your ISA is keeping up with a high standard. So one of the questions that I get the most frequently from folks, especially outside the industry and different parts, is how can they bump up the dials when their ISA is not making their daily dials goal? How do we bump up the calls made every day by their ISA? And this is a really important question because there's a lot behind it. The dials number for every single day for your ISA isn't created in a vacuum. It shouldn't be a number you think is correct, you feel is correct. It should be based on a few really important factors. The first factor and the first question we ask when someone says they're not getting enough dials from their ISA is number one, what are they calling? It's different when an ISA is handling inbound, Facebook leads, Google leads, and calling through their database versus an ISA that is doing cold calling, cold prospecting, calling a flat list of leads, one after the other with a more powerful dialer. What the ISA is calling and how they're calling it, the dialer, are really, really important factors on what your daily dials goal should be. An ISA that is focused on calling through a CRM, calling on a single line dialer, record by record, can typically do about 100 outbound calls in an 8-hour shift. If they are super efficient with their workflow and they have their tool sets on point, they can increase that productivity to 150 up to 200 dials per day if everything is set up for speed and efficiency. It's typically within that range. 100 is going to be average. An unbelievably well-organized workflow can get you all the way up to 200 dials per day. If an ISA is doing outbound prospecting, outbound cold calling, something like circle prospecting, where you've got massive lists you need to call, you're using multi-line power dialers, then they should be doing at least 300 to 400 outbound calls per day, possibly more. We've seen up to 1,000 outbound dials done every single day. Of course, it depends on the list quality and the goal of those calls. If the list is very poor quality, very few working numbers, you want to try and get through as many of those as you can. If the list is higher quality, you want to be on the lower end of that spectrum. But it's a big difference from the single line dialers. The big power dialers are much more powerful and better at handling a lot of numbers and getting through a lot of dials. That's why it's so important to understand what is the ISA calling, how are they calling it, and are they in those expected ranges? If your ISA is not within those expected ranges of daily dials, there might be an issue going on. The next question you should look at is, okay, what kind of call activities are they doing? Are they doing other after call activities or non-calling activities, particularly when they're working within a CRM? Are they responding and setting appointments via text message, via instant message? Are they doing a lot of note taking and putting a lot of detail after they've completed a call because they need to hand off the appointment or converted lead through a specific workflow? Some of those activities can be mitigating factors. So if average is 100 outbound calls for an ISA working within a CRM, then if they're doing a massive amount of non-calling or after-call activities, that number is expected to be lower. It might be in the 60, 70, 80 call range because they're doing all these other activities. You should, of course, also see that reflected in your results. An ISA that is doing a lot of activities should be doing those activities because they're generating appointments. Phone calls is not the only way to generate appointments from leads. Texting, instant messaging can be other things. If they're doing more of another activity, you should still see the results reflected in appointments set or qualified leads created. If those activities are where they need to be and the dials are still lower than what you would expect, or even adjusting for those changes, then the next level of detail needs to come up. What we recommend when we see a situation like that is to have an expert shadow your ISA. We have ISA coaches, ISA supervisors, ISA trainers. When they see a problem with workflow, with throughput, they're able to sit down and shadow the ISA, figure out what's going wrong, observe them in their day-to-day tasks. How are they setting up their calling lists? How are they making those phone calls? What's the time it takes to go from one activity to the next? When you have shadowing going on, then the next level of detail comes up and you're able to fix any specific workflow related issues. We've had ISAs that we work with that have gone from doing 20, 30, 40 dials in a day up to 80, 90, past 100 dials a day just by observing their workflow, making adjustments, using the tools efficiently, and making sure they're doing the highest value activity possible, which is typically making those phone calls. It's really important. Another factor to consider is how much time the ISA has been in the role. Are they brand new to the ISA role? Are they a veteran ISA? This matters a lot, folks. A more seasoned veteran ISA might have something else going on if they understand the workflow, they understand what the issue is. If it's a newer ISA that's getting used to a workflow in those first 30 to 60 day ramp up period, then their dials should be slowly increasing. They should be becoming more productive as time goes by. It's an important factor that you shouldn't overlook. All right, folks, hopefully that was useful for you. If you have an ISA having a low amount of dials, hopefully this video points you in the right direction to ask the right questions and come up with better solutions. If you thought this video was useful and valuable, please hit that subscribe button. We release a new video every single week with jam-packed ideas, tips, and tricks to get the most out of your ISA and outbound prospecting.